Toronto! 2.2% increase on the property.
We have the second highest taxes in the GTA, just behind Brampton. We also have the most unaffordability.
So Toronto's mayor says a softer tax increase may be needed in 2026.
2.2%. That is the percentage floating around Toronto right now with regard to property taxes.
I was shocked checking my property tax bill today.
Property tax. That is a giant scam.
If you live in Saskatoon, you've probably heard that property taxes are about to go crazy.
Welcome back to Canadian Rant, where we talk about the real things actually affecting everyday Canadians. Today, we need to talk about property tax, because it is spiraling into something absolutely ridiculous. Year after year, the cost of living goes up, food prices go up, rent goes up. But now even if you own a home, something you've already paid your blood, sweat, and tears for, the system finds a way to charge you again and again. Property tax used to feel like a civic responsibility. Help the city, maintain the roads, pay for schools? Fine. But now? It feels like a punishment for daring to own a piece of land in the country you helped build. People are spending decades working to buy a home. And just when they finally think they can relax, boom. A massive property tax reassessment comes in the mail like a financial eviction notice, forcing people to choose between groceries, heating, or keeping the home they worked their whole life for. So let's get into it. Why property taxes are out of control, why homeowners are being squeezed, and why this might be the final straw for the Canadian middle class.
Toronto! 2.2% increase on the property because Toronto doesn't have any more money. Okay, and I want to let you know that we will feed your baby. If you're the mommy and you have 2 kids, don't worry, we give them the halal food. Also, Torontonians, I want to let you know, TTC prices is not going up. It's going to stay the same as 2025. So, let's go Toronto.
Mayor Olivia Chow proposing a 2.2% property tax increase for this year. That's far lower than previous years. Just last year, it was 6.9%. The year before that, it was 9.5%. Part of the reason it's so low this year, the mayor says, is because she's focusing on affordability. Also says the city is in a much better financial situation than when she took office. It's also an election year. People are speculating she will run again, wants the numbers to look good. She was asked about that earlier today, and she said she really just wants to make things affordable, and she hasn't even decided if she's going to run later in the year. Today, we're asking people, what do you think? What does 2.2% when it comes to your property taxes mean to you?
If you live in Saskatoon, you've probably heard that property taxes are about to go crazy. Here's what this will likely mean for your actual wallet. Property taxes are projected to increase somewhere between 8 and 10% in 2026 and about 6% in 2027. This would be the highest jump we've seen in Saskatoon property taxes. The city bases most things on the average assessed value of a home in Saskatoon, which was about $394,000 this year. Keep in mind that the tax assessed value for your home is completely different from your actual market value. On that average home, with the projected increases, the average homeowner will pay roughly $16 per month more in 2026 and $13 more per month in 2027. About $200 extra per year in 2026 and $150 in 2027. Now that's for the average home. If your assessed value went up more than the average home, you'll pay more. If it went up less, you'll pay less. So while this is the highest jump that we've ever seen in Saskatoon property taxes, $16 more per month really just means maybe buy 2 less coffees per month. So it isn't the apocalypse. I just wrote a full guide on why this is happening, how it will be phased in, and what to do to prepare. If you want that, comment tax and I'll send it to you.
We have the second highest taxes in the GTA, just behind Brampton. We also have the most unaffordability in the GTA outside of Toronto. This is unacceptable. People are going to the food bank in droves. We're hitting new records every single month. We can't change the price of gas. We can't change the price of groceries. The only tool we have is to lower or freeze property taxes. And so my plan is to freeze property taxes for the next 2 years, which is the rest of this term because we're in a by-election, for every property owner in the city of Mississauga, to lower them for low-income seniors so they can continue aging in place and stay in their own homes, which is good for their health. And by cut small business property taxes by 15%. And we're going to pay for this by using 20% of the reserve in the tax stabilization so that we're not cutting back and losing money in the system. And we're going to continue building and hit our housing targets. We only hit 39% of our housing targets. So we lost $32 million from the federal government last year, from the provincial government last year. And when we continue hitting our housing targets, we're going to get another $28 million from the federal government. And we're going to expand our tax base, which is what Hazel McCallion did. For decades, she built the city of Mississauga and continued to build the city of Mississauga because she understood that more homes equals lower taxes. And that's what we're going to do. We're also going to introduce a vacant homes tax, which we've been working on for the last couple of years. I'd argue we're going to try to do it better than Toronto did so that we're not going to face some of the same challenges.
2.2%. That is the percentage floating around Toronto right now with regard to property taxes. And for those of you wondering, every percent is worth about $50 million in tax revenue, which means 2.2% is $110 million coming from the pockets of everyday men and women who are just trying to get by, be they homeowners or renters, who will subsequently be impacted by a property tax increase, even if they are not property owners. And it is for this reason I'm running to become the next mayor of Toronto, because until we have policies that are built around the people, policies that are practical in implementation, policies that we can measure in terms of what success looks like, and policies that address the most central issue impacting all of us, change will be impossible. Toronto becomes a city where the average amongst us can thrive, but we have a man at City Hall who is of the people. So join me as I become the next mayor of Toronto.
I was shocked checking my property tax bill today. 9 years ago, I paid $6,500. Now it is $12,000. If this trend continues, I'll be paying $24,000 a year by 2035. That is $2,000 a month just in property tax alone. Even without a mortgage, I would still need $3,000 a month with utilities. For that, I could live a luxury life in Bali. Honestly, Canada is starting to feel unsustainable. I'm making a 10-year plan to move somewhere with less tax and more peace.
So Toronto's mayor says a softer tax increase may be needed in 2026. She's pointed out that the city already raised the luxury home tax, and now Toronto's is facing about $1 billion budget shortfall. But here's what people remember. Property taxes went up 9.5% in 2024 and 6.5% again in 2025. So when the city says a softer increase, the real question is softer compared to what? Do you think the modest increase is reasonable, or should the city focus more on cutting costs or finding other revenue? Please let me know what you think.
Toronto homeowners are about to pay more. Again, City Council has approved a property tax increase for 2026, raising residential taxes by about 2.2%. That includes a 0.7% base increase plus a 1.5% city building levy meant to help fund long-term infrastructure. Now, for the average homeowner, the city says that works out to roughly a few extra dollars a month, but officials argue it's necessary to protect services like transit, road repairs, emergency services, parks, and waste collection. Mayor Olivia Chow says the increase is smaller than in recent years and helps avoid service cuts, whilst critics warn it adds pressure during an ongoing affordability crisis. The increase will show up on 2026 property tax bills, with interim bills arriving early in the year and final bills later in the spring. I'm Mahalia Long, and that's what Toronto's latest tax hike means for you.
So I just received my property tax bill for the year of 2025/2026. So I was just a little bit confused because I received the bill today on October 2nd, and this is due November 1st. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to come up with $4,000 in less than 30 days? The second installment is due February 1st, 2026 for $4,002.12 for a total, again, for $8,004.24. So I got on the phone. I was like mind blown. So I'm trying to figure this out. Purchased the home. I guess I have an escrow account. They're supposed to pay these. Mortgage payment if there's not sufficient money in the escrow balance. So I got on the phone with the property tax people here in the county. Then when I was talking to them, they asked me if I reside in the home, and I told them yes, this is my primary residence. And they had told me that they had sent me a claim for a homeowner property tax exemption, and I was aware of the paper, but I didn't fill it out because it looked a little sketch to me. So now I need to fill this out and drop it off to the county so that they could review the numbers and see how much exemption I can get from it. It's hard to process because I was not aware of this information, so I'm learning as I'm going as a first-time home buyer. So if you're dealing with this, let me know how you're dealing with it, because I was on the phone for like the last hour just talking to people about what I need to do, which include the lender and the county where I reside at.
Okay, this is a whole other topic I can discuss. Property tax. That is a giant scam. First of all, we're here owning property, but we don't really own it. We never really own it because we're charged property tax every year, and if we don't pay them, we lose our property. We lose our house. So nobody ever really owns anything. The government still owns it. What happened to like people owning land and being able to use the land they want to use? Because there's so many regulations on what you can build, how many of it you can build, like what you can do with your own property on top of it not even really being yours. It just doesn't make any sense. We pay this money, and what do we actually get from it?
Okay, let's talk about the first item that went to Vancouver City Council on Wednesday. The city's finance team presented a report to council about property tax hikes for next year. They are projecting a 5 to 6% property tax hike with an additional 1% tax to address the infrastructure deficit. So the team gave an overview as to why they're facing financial pressures right now, one of which is tariffs, global economic volatility, and the fact that the city has added around 800 positions in staffing from 2022 to 2025. So the majority of those staffing positions are in policing and in the city's engineering department to address its capital plan. If you follow Vancouver City Council, you'll know that fully funding the police department has been a big priority of the mayor and his ABC Majority Council. Following staff's report, the mayor decided to table a motion, which was successful. He's basically asking staff to come back to the table. I believe in the fall, they'll provide another report on the operating budget. And he's basically saying, look at 3 different scenarios that provide Vancouverites with either a 2.5, 1.5, or 0% property tax increase. There was some pushback from opposition councillors. Green Party councillor Pete Fry tabled an amendment to the mayor's motion. Basically, the amendment would have asked staff to articulate any service cuts. The amendment failed, and so Pete Fry, independent councillor Rebecca Bly, and COPE councillor Sean Orr basically abstained from supporting this item. Fry's reasoning for the amendment was, what are the trade-offs? If we're going to be having a 0, 1.5, 2.5% property tax increase, what are we cutting within the current budget? And the public, he believed, ought to know what that was. ABC basically said, staff already do a thorough job. They are very transparent. We feel like the amendment is redundant. Last year, City Council approved a 3.9% property tax increase, so Vancouverites will have to wait until December when the budget is finalized to find out how much they'll be paying in property taxes next year.
Here's the thing, Canada. Property tax isn't just a bill. It's a meter the government turns up whenever they need money, and homeowners have zero say in it. You can pay off your mortgage, you can fix your roof, you can shovel your sidewalk and mow your lawn. You can do everything right, yet somehow you never really own your home. Because the minute you stop paying property tax, the city swoops in and takes it. That is not ownership, that is lifetime rent disguised as civic duty. And we're not talking tiny increases anymore. We're seeing 5%, 10%, 15% jumps in 1 year. People on fixed income, seniors who built this country, are being pushed out of the homes they raised families in. Owning a home was supposed to be stability. It was supposed to be security. It was the finish line, the reward after decades of hard work. But now, it feels like a trap, because if you can't afford the taxes, your house isn't yours. And the government knows it. This is the new Canadian reality. Young people can't afford to buy renters, can't afford to rent, and now even homeowners can't afford to stay. How does that make sense? And worst of all, nobody asked for this. Nobody voted for skyrocketing assessment values. Nobody approved tax increases automatically tied to inflation, construction, and municipal needs. We didn't sign up for any of that. So here's the message. If politicians want to keep raising taxes, they should be forced to justify every penny, line by line, publicly, transparently, not just quietly drop bigger bills in people's mailboxes and hope no one complains. Canadians are stretched to the breaking point. We are tired of being told to tighten our belts while governments waste money, mismanage budgets, and then come knocking on our door asking for more. Enough is enough. You want safe streets, schools, healthcare? Absolutely was. We all do. But you shouldn't lose your home to pay for them. If Canada doesn't fix this, we're going to see a wave of forced downsizing, foreclosures, and families pushed out of communities they helped build. So if you're feeling the squeeze, you're not alone. Speak up, share your story, push your city council, pressure your province, because the louder we get, the harder we are to ignore. Thanks for watching Canadian Rant. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, especially your neighbor who just opened their their tax notice, and nearly fainted. We're not crazy. The system is broken, and together we're calling it out.